Hello there, my name is Jordan Leroy Hansen, also known as LaDev, and I'm here to kind of reflect on the last year. Today is actually New Year's Day as of recording this, and it's safe to say 2018 as a year was very peculiar, to say at the least. It definitely wasn't a great year. There was some really cool stuff that happened, especially with Magic the Gathering related, like we had Dominaria, which is probably my favorite draft set. It was just a really good design set. And it was actually some really cool cards. It kind of was hard for the first half of the year since Standard was kind of broken. It was really hard to get into. There was a lot of overpowered decks. But once September kind of came around, there was actually a little bit of healthiness in the meta, which actually was kind of nice. It was nice to actually be able to play Silly Brews without going against a very competitively viable aggro deck and get your butt beat. There's actually now a variety of decks. There's the Gagari midrange, there's Boros tokens, I could list off. Like, there's even some artifact shenanigans with card instructs. Standard is actually a lot more healthier now since you can actually tweak with a lot more brews. And we also actually got some really cool cards from 2018. And instead of doing kind of like a top 10 list of like the top 10 cards of 2018 and such, if you guys want that, I'll do that video, but just leave it in the comments. I decided to actually do a unique little twist for reflection, and actually make a singleton deck, with the exception of one card in the deck, besides lands, and also one card in the deck, which is, well, kind of a color arrangement that I've been doing throughout the year 2018, which is Grixis. And what I did was essentially make Grixis dragons, because dragons were actually pretty fun to do throughout the year, especially during in the summer with Nicol Bolas and such, and also with cards like Sarkhan, the Fireblood and such. But what I decided to do then is actually tweak the deck to be singleton to include pretty much what I thought were the funnest cards in 2018, such as Expansion Explosion from guilds, Niv Mizzet from guilds, Lapras from the core set. We can go for these cards pretty much once we play for them, but these are cards that I feel like were really powerful. Now, as you notice, like I said, there's one card in here that's a multiple of, which is Mastermind's Acquisition. This is personally kind of one of my favorite cards from 2018, personally, just the fact that you can protect some of your cards in your sideboard. It's with the second effect of the fact that you can choose a card you own from outside the game and put into your hand, which I decided to use that to include more cards that I thought were really good in the year 2018. So, pretty much keep those in the sideboard so they don't get hand-hated out, and that's pretty much the deck. Now, this is going to be a case where I would kind of go into detail of every card, but since, well, it would take a while since it's a singleton deck, I thought it would be best just to play through the games and just go over why some of the cards that are in this deck are actually relatively powerful, whether they are powerful within their own archetypes or just in that. So, nevertheless, let us just play some casual games. I don't really want to play this deck on rank because I don't really want to lose my rank with this deck, because the deck is singleton, and it is, while there is a thematic to it, aka, hey, some of the really cool cards from 2018 in a semi-singleton Grixis Dragons build, the catch-22 is, well, it can have some less consistency, which can make the deck feel a little to say at the very least. So, we're going to give it a shot, and if I also see any cards that the opponent plays that I think was a really good card from 2018, I'll talk about it. Okay, we got a decent hand. We got Mission Briefing if we want to dig in. We got a Masterminds to dig in. We got Eldest Reborn. It's a slow hand, but I think it's a hand we can keep. And we just have to hope we're not going against an aggro-based deck. We'll let this enter and tap. But yeah, it's great to have the Shocklands back again in Standard. This helps you with color fixing, which is very, very nifty. And also nice that we have the budget options, such as the gates, for people who need them. Who they need like an extra bit of color in their deck. Ooh, this is Storm. I think I'm going to cast Mission Briefing now, just so that we can kind of scry on our deck. Definitely want the Demanding Dragon. I do want the land too. Problem is, Demanding Dragon doesn't really work when we don't have the second red mana source, so we can probably toss that. let's see, we have 3. We probably need the mana source, so we'll do it like that. Okay, so we'll play the land. And we're still going slow, so this could be problematic, especially if the opponent has a really good turn freeze spell. Or a 4-cost spell. This is kind of usually if they're playing Storm, this is where we get like Pirate's Pillage or something like that. I know this deck, so do we get Pirate's Pillage? Nah, I'm guessing they're holding up an Essence Scatter, is my guess. So, we got choices here. We can just play a Mastermind's Acquisition, go dig a card from our deck. Which I think that's the better choice, because it's either they're holding up a Negate, or they're holding up a Spell Pierce. It could also be, I think it's more likely they're holding up an Essence Scatter. So, we're just going to see if they have the Spell Pierce, Syncopate, or whatever. We'll see. The opponent might also decide not to counter this and just counter what I tutor. It could be a variety of things. Okay, so the opponent decided not to tutor. That's good on our part. So we should probably stick within our colors that we have at the moment. We have 1 red source, multiple black sources, so I kind of like Engraph in this case, because the opponent's trying to like keep their hand up a little bit. We can probably hate out their hand. And we're either going to do a turn 5 Doom Whisperer or Eldest Reborn. Probably Eldest Reborn if I have to make a guess. That way we can hate out the Goblin Electromancer and not make him have cheap spells, because discounted spells is what's going to probably kill us. So yeah. Okay, so we're gonna destroy the Goblin Electromancer. Speaking of which, this is, like I said, one of my favorite sets was Dominaria. And they had this really cool mechanic with sagas and such, as you kind of see here. Sagas kind of like have multiple effects that happen at the beginning of each turn. It is actually one of the coolest design mechanics they had from the set. It's really fun to play with these cards. Okay, so we got a Crackling Drake. And this one's just really good because it allows the opponent to sacrifice, then discard, and then you can reanimate a card from any graveyard, which is just really, really good. Okay. I think the choice here is going to play Doom Whisperer. They don't have mana up for an Essence Scatter, so... And if they remove it, then we can just Surveil to try to get into a really nifty target and such. So, I think that's the choice here. Also, really good card that came from Guilds of Ravnica. Just a sit-sits, fly, and trample, and the fact that you can pay life to Surveil and scry in your deck, essentially. Really good card. Probably one of my favorite cards that came from the Guilds of Ravnica expansion. Just had some really good Vincent, I always get his last name wrong. Pros, I think it is. The art's really good. And it's just a nice card in general. You see this in a variety of Gagari mid-range decks. Even in Dimir control. Okay, so we're getting a shock. So I'm going to guess a Lava Coil. That way we don't reanimate the card, I'm guessing. Yep, called it. So we're just going to look at our deck a little bit. Ooh, a Lapras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I like the Expansion Explosion first. But yeah, we like what our deck is at the moment, so bye-bye Doom Whisperer. Unfortunately, it's a 1-of in the deck, so... We have to be a little bit concerned, because this is the type of decks that run Niv Mizzet. So we gotta have to make the presumption that they are going to be running their Niv Mizzet next turn. We don't really want anything from their graveyard. We kind of want our Demanding Dragon. And be like, you want to get dealt 5 damage, or sacrifice the Drake? They'll probably just take the 5 damage if I have to make a guess. Yep, that's what I thought. So, Hmm. We can do Angraph. I like Angraph in this case. That way it forces the opponent to, if they really want to play the Niv Mizzet, they can, but then they would probably have to attack in with their Crackling Drake, force into an attack, or they have to waste the turn of not playing Niv Mizzet on the turn to remove the Demanding Drake to hit the Angraph, so I like that. Then what we do is we just make him discard a card, and that's also why it's good. It removes a card from his hand, which is good for resource management. Still, I think if there's a card that's probably my favorite from Rivals of Ixalan, it's probably Angraph. Angraph's just a really good tech card against like control style decks and such, and I don't know. I really like to toy with him this upcoming year with I'm forgetting the name of the expansion. Ravnica Alliances or Allegiances, just with Rakdos coming into the picture and with Spectacle. I think this card might actually have some more fun playing. So yeah, we saw that coming. They were going to remove that. They decided not to do Niv Mizzet this turn, so they're going to attack into Angraph, which we figured that was going to be the case. So that either means this last card is Niv Mizzet or a Burn Spell. It'll be interesting. They decide to attack face, which means that must mean that's a shock. Or they probably just think logically, I don't really need this. Okay. So if we take control of that, that would equal to the cards of instant sorceries in our graveyard, which is only one, so not really that good. We'll resolve this. We'll take out that. I think that's the game. So yeah, it wasn't a Niv Mizzet, just was another Drake.
No fire, no steel.
What do we do here? Do we have any choice here? That would give us to 5. Yeah, I think that's game. If we had enough more mana, what we probably should have done was search for, say, one of our removal spells, like Spitflame or something like that. And then save the mana for Spitflame, but fortunately the opponent just got us at a good advantage. Good game. Still, Crackling Drake, really good card. Is it Drake's is a popular deck archetype, and it's just based off that card alone. Also, the one Drake they decided to reprint from Amacat that I always forget the name of. Emerald Drake or some shtick like that. Nevertheless, really good card. Especially the fact that you draw a card from it is just what makes that card really good. Plus the factor that the spell power is equal to the amount of spells that are both in the graveyard and exile, which then allows you to toy with cards like Mission Briefing and such without much of a sweat. With the exception of some weird combat interactions on some circumstances, but nevertheless, really good card. I might just throw into ranking, since usually it is hard to find a match when you're in play mode. But yeah. 2018 was just a weird year. Also, it was a weird year for me because it was kind of the year I decided to start doing this, which was kind of cool, but, you know, I'm still just on the ropes of doing this and such, and I'm just trying to get used to it. Okay, so what's our playing? They're playing blue as well. Oh boy. This screen's mono blue tempo, which... oh boy. This was probably not the hand to keep for this matchup. But yeah, while we're waiting, I think one of my favorite cards in the core set, though, was Sarkhan. It's just the factor, yeah, it's not the greatest card in the world, but the factor that I was able to play with a variety of dragon decks thanks to this card, just the factor that it's used as a card draw engine, and the factor that the add 2 mana of any colors could help you do multiple color type of decks with Sarkhan. It was a fun card to toy with. Now the opponent's going to try to hand hate me out, so I'm curious to see what he hates out. So he hates out the Circon. Okay, makes sense. I think... If the opponent's, like, at the point where they're like... It'll be interesting to see if they have another Kite Sail freebooter. Doesn't look like it. They're probably holding up the Essence Scatter, if I would make a guess, or just waiting to see what I play. It'll be interesting to see what they play here. Do they have another Kite Sail? Doesn't look like it. So I'm just gonna play this and hope they don't have a Spell Pierce or Negate. Maybe they do, but it might be also one of those spells they don't decide to negate because they feel like that would prevent me from playing the cards in my hand, which they might find detrimental. Still, Experimental Frenzy. Boy, this card is absurd. Just the fact that you can look at the top card of your library and play the cards. The amount of resource generation you get from this card alone is quite absurd. Like, in the 1000-Year Storm decks that I've been playing, like the 1000-Year Goblin and Standard, this is just kind of like my key card to when I have an empty hand, play this card, and then play a ton of spells, which then just allows me to generate a lot of resource. It's a really good card. Okay, we're definitely going all blue-black pirates, it seems. Ow, ow. So the opponent draws a card. Good news is they don't have much for other than besides a Spell Pierce. So we're going to play this. Play a land for turn. And, oh, I wish I could play that, but on the other side of the coin, you could make the argument that it's probably not the best to play at the moment, since where the opponent currently had multiple ways they can sacrifice stuff. I wonder if this is like the Quads Duplicate Surveil kind of deck that I've seen going around once in a while. Okay. It could also just be a budget Dimir deck, which still looks like a solid deck. Well, that was a good pull. So we're gonna play that. Okay, we're gonna hope that we can have a chance to at least attack in before they cast down it. Or name removal spell here. So yeah, we're just going to attack, generate the treasure, which is what we want. That way we have enough mana to cast down anything that we want to. Since we have the red mana source, we might just... Well, the problem is it's just going to go into hand. They might be just holding this up, so just in case if they... Well, it is tapped. I'm gonna try it. Let's see what the opponent does here. Okay, he lets it resolve, which probably makes sense, especially the factor of that. Okay, so we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Theoretically 7th mana. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Ow, ow. And the one aspect that people don't talk to you about with Experimental Frenzy is the factor that, well, it's just a really decent card draw engine. Like, the moment when you destroy this, you have a really just decent hand you don't mind keeping, so we're going to look at the top of our library. We're definitely going to keep this Golden Demise, so we don't want to throw that into the graveyard. So we're going to say library. And honestly, it's now at the point where I think we can destroy this without a sweat. We still want to save mana up for Golden Demise, so we got to keep that in mind. But we do have an unclaimed territory, and we have the 2 black mana. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to say, obviously, dragon. And we're going to see if they have the Spell Pierce. If they did, good game. Oh, wait. I played the wrong card. Oh, good game. Note to self. Make sure you play the right card. Okay, that was a misplay. Okay, we'll play one more game, then we'll call it Night with the deck. But yeah, it's an interesting deck. It's definitely summarized 2018 in a nutshell. Just some fun dragons, some fun red, black, and blue spells. There was also some really good green spells, such as like Jadeite Ranger and such. Treasure Map was also really cool. And Dominaria, still one of my favorite draft sets ever. Just, there was a bunch of good cards from there. Even Teferi, which, yeah, I don't play much control, so I don't really play that card a lot. But it is nice to see the control players actually liking the card a lot. Even though it might be a little frustrating to go against it once in a blue moon. Also, Vivian. That's a really great green planeswalker. Now, coming to think of it. It's debatable, but I think we'll keep it. Just for the fact alone that we do have the black source here, so we can cast down, we can save it for Playcrafter, Golden Demise, etc., etc. Okay, we're cooking now. I think we can draw now. Oh. There we go. Do-do, do-do. And what do we want to discard? Probably cast down now, because if they have a creature we would want to remove with that, we're probably just going to remove it with Golden Demise. And yet, we haven't seen it yet, so I think I'm going to play the Playcrafter right now. That way, we can hate out their hand a bit. Oh, they're playing red-black. Rakdos. Nice! Okay, did they get their red source? Nope. Oh, is this the... Oh, I'm forgetting the name. Is this Chromatic Black? I think it's the name of the deck archetype. This is probably just Chromatic Black. Speaking of Chromatic Lantern, boy, if there is one card that's making decks like Chromatic Black a thing, it's, well... Okay, opponent, what are you doing? Okay, let's think here. So they're running kind of like a mono black, probably chromatic control deck. We know they don't have counter magic, so we could probably search our sideboard for a card that we think might work against this matchup. And honestly, yeah. We're just going to copy it 2 times. So, they're trying to ramp up to something really, 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 really big. So it's probably good that we do some hand hate. I like that. But, just in case if they already get something down, I think it's best we get in Bolus's clutches. That way we can steal something. Because they're ramping to something. The fact that I see 2 Cabal Strongholds here means they're ramping up to something pretty scary. Nevertheless, we're going to play our Angraf. And honestly, we just kind of have to hate the hand out a little bit.
Please run. A chase stokes the forge.
This is probably what they're going to play. Vraska's Skip, Vraska's Contempt. Makes sense.
No fire, no steel.
So we got a removal out of their hand, and we're going to get one card out of their hand, which is good. A second Vraska's Contempt. Okay, so this does feel like Chromatic Black control. Okay. Honestly, I'm gonna discard Golden Demise since we haven't really seen any small fry stuff. We're gonna play a land for turn. We're gonna play our treasure map, scribe the treasure map. Get the City's Blessing, which means now we can use Arch of Vraska for card draw, which is awesome. If there's one land that I constantly rely on in Commander, it's this little guy. Just the factor that it generates you mana, and then you can just spend 5 and draw a card. Late game, once you have the City's Blessing. Good card in a variety of deck archetypes. One of the better cards that came from Rivals of Ixalan, as regarding to lands at least. Well, besides the obvious... Did we get... No, I don't think we got checked lands in Rivals. At least I don't recall we did. Okay. So the opponent is playing a really weird deck. Like, we don't know what they're playing. We'll keep that on top. And honestly, let's make a wish. Because we can, thanks to our treasures, activate the ability automatically. And get a discount and get a Lotus. So now we're going to probably get the removal spell now that they probably were holding. Third Vraska's Contempt. Okay. Still. Yes, we are going to cast that. And pass the turn. Because I still have no clue what this opponent's doing. Nice. So yeah, we definitely knew it was Chromatic Black control, but what does he have in hand then? Honestly, I think that's the best approach in this. Stealing the in-bolus's clutches would be actually functional for us, because what it does is it does get him out of the... It gives us a mana, and it also gets him out of the... Yep, he's like, nope. Okay, that was a good play on us, because the factor is they had like probably Niv Mizzet or stuff like that in their hand. So the fact that we hated that out means that was a really good matchup. Nevertheless, I'll show you the deck, even though I don't know if you would want to play it. This is Dragons of 2018. And overall, 2018 has been a really weird year, but I hope 2019 has a lot more exciting shenanigans, some more cool cards to try out, and just some brewing shenanigans. I'll get back to the regular video schedule this week. Probably going to cover the spoilers that'll be coming from Ravnica of Allegiances, which I think starts tomorrow. Not 100% sure. Also, the best news that's going to come is I'm going to actually get fiber internet really soon in the next few weeks, which means I could probably stream a lot more easier now. Hopefully the internet's a lot more consistent and streaming is not really, really obnoxious. Nevertheless, I hope you all have a really good new year. Thank you for surviving through it. It's been kind of a rough year for many people. I hope you all have a lovely day. This is LevDev, signing out.